Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 10th and tonight's movie is Audition. This movie is actually kind of notorious. I remember when I was gathering movies to watch for the classics Horror Nights, this came up a few times. Audition is a Japanese movie from 1999 and people are still talking about it today. Apparently, the main character is a single guy who held auditions to be his girlfriend, and the woman he ended up picking turns out to be a murderer. So I guess the rest of the movie is him trying to escape her wrath, something like that. Actually, I realized just now that there are very few famous horror movie killers that are women. The only ones that come to mind, besides, I guess, the character in this movie, is Annie Wilkes and Jason's mom from Friday the 13th. So I guess that Horror Nights is due for some gaslight gatekeep girl boss. I'm gonna go watch it right now. What the hell was that? I didn't like this movie very much, and I was thinking we had been on a streak of good movies and eventually it was going to fall apart, and yeah, I didn't like this movie that much. I respect what it was trying to do and what it was able to accomplish, but overall I can't say I think it's a good movie. I'm giving Audition a 4 out of 10. I considered giving it a 5, but nah, I have some issues with it. I'm giving it a 4. To begin with, what I described as the audition was not wholly accurate. It was somehow both more and less creepy than I described. So this isn't an audition specifically to be this guy's girlfriend. Well, actually in this movie it's his wife. But instead he works in film. He works at a company that makes movies and TV shows and stuff. And his friend is one of the higher ups, and when he was talking about how he wants to find a new wife because his own wife died 7 years before, he says, why don't we hold an audition? And what they do is that they have this script that they got that's not going to go anywhere, so they're just pretending that this movie or show is going to happen, and they need auditions for the lead, so they lure all these women in under false pretenses. The main character, this was not his idea, but he is complicit in it, and that does speak very badly on his character. And what's worse is that the audition process itself is portrayed as a wacky scene. They played funny music, they try to be, oh, this is so silly. No, it's not silly, it's upsetting, it's dark, it's creepy. And I understand that very well might have been intentional, they're trying to make you uncomfortable, but when it gets to the point where one woman just takes her shirt off and you see her boobs and another woman talks about her self-harm scars, I think you've gone too far. The one that the main character, Aoyama, zeroes in on immediately is this young lady named Asami. And one thing I want to make clear is that while this movie has issues, the performance of Eihi Shina, who plays Asami, is not one of them. She does her job incredibly well. She does her job so well that I am now kind of scared of this woman. It's not like she's totally perfect and just lured them right in. There's something a little bit off about her from the beginning. And while Aoyama's buddy does seem to notice that, Aoyama doesn't. And I do have to say, once you figure out that this was all a trap set up by Asami, you can kind of appreciate how well she played this out. Everything that she did was meant to create the sort of persona that would draw somebody in this case, Aoyama. And even when holes form in her story, she's able to plug them up and make excuses in a way that he doesn't even blink at. The first half of the movie was done pretty well despite some questionable choices, but it was setting up things so well, and then the second half of the movie, I don't even know what that was. When it comes to slasher movies, I think the part of the movie that they need to focus on is the chase, because once someone is in the killer's clutches, it's just, how long do you want to watch someone get killed? There are a lot of deeply disturbing things in this movie, but making something disturbing is not the same thing as making something scary. It's easy to make something disturbing, just so something really gross or something really wrong, and that's disturbing. Scary takes a little bit more nuance, there's more to it. And while there are a lot of scary moments in this movie, I'm definitely going to remember the disturbing moments more. I can absolutely see why this movie is something that people know about. It's certainly memorable, it certainly does what it sets out to do, but I found it lacking in a few areas. And to really go into detail why, I'm gonna have to go into a few spoilers. The second half of the movie is confusing for pretty much the entire thing. Like, there's this really long scene, almost exactly halfway through the movie, where Asami and Aoyama are in like a hotel room and they're like getting undressed and they're in bed together. And there's a moment where like he gets on top of her, and then it's like really weird. It's like there's like a bang, and then suddenly he's like back on the bed and he wakes up and he's alone. And I don't know what they were trying to go for. Like, he hit his head, she attacked him, something, but like right after that, she completely disappears. Like, he can't even find her by calling her anymore, which was weird because, and like the first part of the movie, they established that she was like sitting there on the floor in her room for long periods of time, just staring at the phone, waiting for it to ring. Aoyama tries to find Asami, and he ends up finding a few things that make her seem very suspicious. He goes to where she used to do ballet and sees the instructor, who has been like maimed. He has like weird fake looking feet, and he talks really crazy. And he also goes to the place where she used to work, but the owner was murdered. And when they were finding the body, they found more body parts than would come from one person. And for some reason, he isn't scared away by all these red flags. Maybe he is, but not enough to like actually stop wanting to find her. But then we see that she like breaks into his house, drugs the whiskey that he drinks every time he comes home, and then she just starts torturing him. But before that, there's this really weird thing where like he drinks the drugged whiskey or liquor or whatever it was, and he falls asleep, and then he starts dreaming about like her past, even though like he wasn't there for these things. Like there's a lot, one of the things that they show a lot in her house is that there's this like white sack on the ground that's usually still but sometimes moves. But then we see what was actually in that sack, and like, is that supposed to be what's really true? Because I thought this was a dream that Aoyama was having, and he doesn't know that. Is this just what he imagines it? Because it's in character with what she ends up doing in real life. And then after she does more things to him that I don't even want to relay to you, there's a moment where like it seems like he wakes up back in that hotel room and all of this was just a bad dream. And I mean, like, weird, but like maybe they could have done something with that. Like I thought it was going to end when he goes back to the bed and like she says, "So you proposed to me and I thought about this," and the answer is yes. And then he's like, "I suddenly feel really bad about this, but I don't know how to say that to her because this was all a dream." But then suddenly he's back at the house, so I don't know what that was. Then Aoyama's son comes back to the house. He was supposed to be gone all day. And when Asami sees that someone's coming, she like hides and then tries to take him down with something in a spray can. I understand that pepper spray and mace can incapacitate someone, but there are so many better tools for that. There's a little chase scene, and he ends up pushing her down the stairs, and she like breaks her neck. And as she lays dying, Aoyama looks over, and then she starts saying the things that she said on like their dates before. And that kind of made me think this whole thing kind of actually was an audition, but instead of auditioning for this imaginary role, she was auditioning for his dream woman, and she passed with flying colors. And then the movie just ends. I'm not saying that this was a bad story. I'm saying that this was a badly told story. The second half of Audition is a mess. Yesterday's movie, Shutter Island, showed dementia done right, and I think that the second half of Audition is a lot of examples of what not to do when trying to make something compelling that's also like you don't know when what you're watching is real and when it's not. It's confusing, and when it's not being confusing, it's being disgusting. And that's just my opinion. I can understand why other people like this movie, but I wasn't here for it. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow.